Yo, what's going on? Chavo Guerrero Jr. here, giving a big shout out to Wrestling Rehab. Keep watching, keep listening, and Viva la Raza.
Órale. Órale, Cholo Trucker Wrestling Rehab. Shout outs to all the junkies out there. Okay, man. Still feeling the effects of the immortal one passing away. Nonetheless, Hulkamania will live on forever. So, you know, I didn't think that this was even a conversation. Okay, but apparently it is. Apparently it is. And maybe it has to do with age groups. I'm over here in the hotel room. I'm trucking it up. I'm on the road. It's cool. I'll be home tomorrow. Anyway, and that is Hulk Hogan, and which he should be remembered for as Hulk Hogan or Hollywood Hogan, and not so much remembered, but what was his best career? What was he really known for? What was his big impact? Now, it's the easy answer to just say both, right? And to a certain degree, you're right. To a certain degree, you're right. Okay, both careers. Um, he should be known for. Now, I'm not even going to entertain the 2000s Hulk Hogan to even put him in this category because all that really was that run that he had there with the WWE when he came out with that freaking feathery thing and that stuff. That was just all, everybody just giving Hulkster a pass because of what he did in his previous years. So I'm not even going to entertain that career. All right. But these two right here, I thought it was a pretty easy answer. I did. I was like, wow, clearly it's one over the other. Like I said, I understand for those that say both. And like I said, I get it. And how does it make sense that it's both? Well, here's how it makes sense. Because he left the WWF, goes to WCW, reinvents himself, and puts WCW on a map where it wasn't on the map. Okay, it was a cool time, man. Okay, it was a cool time. The lines were drawn on the, it was like it was wartime, man. The Monday Night Wars, right? Nitro and Raw, and it was a it was quite the time in wrestling. Okay, it really was. But and by the way, the Hulkster had a lot to do with it, with putting WCW on the map and actually competing and beating the WWF. But we'll get to that. Okay, for me, hands down, I don't even think it's a question or a conversation that it's the 80s, early 90s WWF Hulk Hogan that is more important. Now, I don't like the argument every time people say, like, hey, well, if it wasn't for that, then there is no this. So, I mean, if we keep going down that road, then if it weren't for his parents, then there's no Hulk Hogan. So, in the reality, his parents should get praised. And in reality, his great grandparents should be praised because if it weren't for his grandparents, then his parents wouldn't be around. Then his parents wouldn't have had him, and then we'll just keep on going down the tree line, right? What I'm trying to say here is that the impact of the immortal Hulk Hogan, all right, the take your vitamins, say your prayers, is levels above Hollywood Hogan. Now, to many, you're going to disagree. And what I'm starting to see, what I'm starting to realize, there's an age category here. There's a chasm in the ages, right? If you were born in the late 80s or early 90s and you really just remember Hollywood Hogan, then I understand that you can't really be in the moment of when he was the immortal Hulk Hogan. There's two things that I love, right? For as long as I can remember, I was alive. I like football and I like baseball as well. Okay, but those came later on in life. For as long as I can remember, I was alive. There's two things that I've been watching. Okay, for as long as I can remember, I've been alive. Okay, wrestling and boxing. I still love those two to the max today. Don't ask me which one I love more because you're not gonna get an answer. By the way, I do have a boxing channel. Shout out Los Tres Chingones Boxing. Um, but the reason why I bring that up is because I was not around the Muhammad Ali era. Yes, I've gone back and I've watched old Muhammad Ali fights. I saw when he fought Smoking Joe Frazier. I saw when he fought George Foreman. I've seen some of his older fights. Okay, but I wasn't around at that time. I couldn't grasp what it meant, right? All I could listen to is old heads that were around at that time, and they're like, man, it was just something else. You had to be around. I could go back and watch him and say, like, wow, that did seem like a big deal. But again, I would never know because I wasn't around. So it's not me over here telling you, like, hey, man, you know what? You new school guys or you guys that were born in the late 80s, early 90s, you guys don't know what you're talking about. No, I get it. To you, that was your child. That was your childhood. And you can't quite get the energy of before that. Even though you go back and watch the matches, you can't get the energy of what it was when he was the immortal Hulk Hogan, the biggest superstar, the biggest wrestler um, ever, ever. Bigger than Stone Cold, bigger than The Rock, bigger than John Cena, bigger than the Tribal Chief. He is the biggest wrestling star ever, 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 ever. If The Rock is more popular today, that's because of the movies. But if just wrestling, it's Hulk Hogan. It is Hulk Hogan, and that was because he was the immortal one. All right, now let's talk about Hollywood Hulk Hogan. All right, there's the big heel turn. He goes to WCW, and he's still Hulk Hogan, right? It's not really working. The 90s were a different time. The 90s was a little bit more rebellious. Nobody really wanted to hear about being patriotism, about being patriotic. Patriotism wasn't at the top level. Everybody was feeling more rebellious. Stick it to the man. Screw everybody. Nobody can tell me what to do. Things like that. That's why things like the NWO and DX were so damn popular. Go against the grain, right? So with the Hulkster still being the immortal Hulk Hogan, it just wasn't working. And the ratings showed it. Hulk Hogan didn't go over there, and now everybody started watching WCW. No, it was actually when Hulk Hogan turned heel, right? Turns into Hollywood Hogan, and it's like, okay, there it is. And now he has a good run. He reinvented himself, and he has a good run. So I understand the level of everybody talking about, like, nah, man, Hollywood Hogan, Hollywood Hogan. Here is the thing that I want to point out to everybody, okay? And you may disagree with me. That's cool. That's fine. I no issues here, okay? Here's the thing. It is very fair to say that without Hulk Hogan, the NWO probably would never have been as popular as it was. I agree. I agree. I think it still would have got some legs. I think it was still would have been popular. You had Diesel and Razor Ramon now calling themselves Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, the Outsiders. If you guys remember that, going over there, had they turned it all into the NWO, rumor was that it was going to be Sting that was going to be the third guy. I think it would have caught a little bit of legs. Would it have been as impactful if it weren't for Hulk Hogan? No, it wouldn't. I still think it would have been somewhat popular. I don't think it would have reached the level that it did without the Hulkster. Now, here's the thing that nobody's considering though. Hulk Hogan going heel, turning into Hollywood Hogan, was so relevant and probably wouldn't have worked as much. It would have worked. I'm not saying it wouldn't have worked. I'm saying it wouldn't work as much if it weren't for the NWO. See, when he was the immortal Hulk Hogan, he was the immortal Hulk Hogan. He didn't need anybody. Sure, you could throw in the Macho Man in there with the mega powers. Sure, you could throw in Brutus the Barber Beefcake in there. But those guys, everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. Those guys were Robin and he was Batman. Nobody was there for them. The Macho Man Randy Savage was badass. Don't get me wrong, man. He broke up and had his career. He was doing good things already. But teaming up with the Hulkster, let's not beat around the bush. Macho Man was a much better wrestler than Hulk Hogan, but bigger star? No. May rest in peace. One of the greatest, the Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah. What I'm saying is that as much as people want to say that NWO wouldn't have been as big if it weren't for the Hulkster, I believe you could switch that and say that Hollywood Hogan probably wouldn't have been as big of a deal if it weren't for him joining the NWO. Well, he didn't join. I mean, they made it. Would it have worked a year down the line? Hollywood Hogan, the heel, just him by himself. He doesn't have any of his homies. He doesn't have any of his cronies. He doesn't have anybody. It's just him. He's just a heel now, just him by himself. I think it would have worked. I think it would have been had a big impact. Absolutely. I'm not saying it wouldn't. But would it have had the longevity? I'm not so sure. We'll never know. We will never know. But it was a big deal. The NWO was a big deal. And Hulk Hogan had a lot to do with that. As well, vice versa. Hollywood Hogan was a big deal. The NWO had a lot to do with that. The immortal Hulk Hogan, that dude, man, you know, he was bigger than wrestling. That is basically pretty much the one guy that you could say he was bigger than wrestling. I know there's gonna be a bunch of purists that are gonna say, like, nah, nobody's bigger than wrestling, man. No one man's bigger than wrestling. Oh, he was at the height of his career. Take your vitamins, say your prayers. Oh, he was. He was wrestling. There were other stars. There were other stars, absolutely. But nobody was coming close. Nobody was coming close to what Hulk Hogan was bringing. Here's another thing. Name me some of the great memorable matches in wrestling history. The magnitude. I'm not talking about in-ring performance. I'm talking about the world stops. I hear that in boxing a lot, right? It's like, oh man, the world stopped for this fight, right? When the world stops for a Hollywood Hogan match. What match? Goldberg? Sting? What match? Because in all reality, those matches don't compare to the magnitude and the level of matches where the world stopped. And of course, I'm exaggerating. The world doesn't actually stop. You guys get what I'm saying? To the matches that he had when he was the immortal Hulk Hogan. The match that he had with the Iron Sheik, Hulkamania was born. The match that he had with Andre the Giant, WrestleMania 3, the Slam Heard Round World. Was it that great of a match? But the magnitude of it, how powerful of a moment it was. Where can you find that in Hollywood Hogan? What match? When he faced the Macho Man, Randy Savage, the Mega Powers broke up, and the whole Elizabeth thing. And in my opinion, the biggest match. I mean, the world stopped. I got to keep on saying that, man. You hear that in term in boxing all the time. Oh man, the world stopped for this match, right? Hey, look, listen. In my opinion, the world stopped at WrestleMania 6. Champion versus champion, title for title, babyface versus babyface. Two guys that were extremely over. Where I can pretty much say it seemed like it was cut right down the middle in the fan base. Go back and watch that match. I'm not telling you to go back and watch that match because you get to see, a 5-star match. It wasn't a bad match for who the guys are, right? And that time, I actually just recently rewatched it. I'm just talking about go back and look at the atmosphere. Look at them just size each other up. Damn, Holmes, it was just it never got any bigger than that. It was just like, wow, incredible. Now, Hogan did face Ultimate Warrior at WCW. I don't think anybody cared. I mean, the matches that the Hulkster had, the iconic matches, you're not bringing up any of Hollywood Hogan matches. If you're going to go down the list and say, hey, man, let's rate his most iconic, memorable matches, biggest matches, you're going to go through quite a few before you get down to a Hollywood Hogan match. Him facing Goldberg, him facing Sting, honestly, those are probably like on the level of when he faced Earthquake, which was a big match. I don't know. Maybe him facing Earthquake was probably even a bigger deal. You guys remember Earthquake with Dino Bravo? Hulk Hogan had the big boss man in his corner. Maybe it was somewhere on that level. Maybe it was somewhere on the level of when he faced Sid Justice, WrestleMania 8. But those matches didn't come close. Now, now, I'll go ahead and I'll give this. If you want to say he was Hollywood Hogan, because yeah, I get it. Yeah, he actually was. When he faced The Rock, cool, so be it. He wasn't in WCW. But that's fine. That's cool. He was still Hollywood Hogan. Good. Let's give him credit for that one. Because that one actually is up there on that level when he faced Savage, when he faced Iron Sheik, when he faced Andre the Giant, when he faced Ultimate Warrior. It is on that level. Definitely. By that time, Hogan was, he was done. I mean, his next WrestleMania match, he faced Vince McMahon. Now, his career was coming to an end. But that's fine. That's fine. You could say that was a Hollywood Hogan match. Cool. That's one. A great one, an iconic one, right? Definitely. But outside of that, man, what else you got? I think I think people just loved the NWO being rebellious, them tagging up the titles and not giving an F and just being these disruptors and just saying, hey man, you know what, just love Hollywood Hogan more. And it's like, okay, but if he did not have the NWO with them, As much as you say the NWO needed him, I think there's validity to say that he needed the NWO as well for Hollywood Hogan to have some longevity. I don't know how well it would have gone over had it just been him. Had it just been him, let's say Macho Man was down at the ring celebrating some sort of victory, whatever. Hogan goes in there, he's celebrating with the Macho Man, turns heel by, kicking him in the balls or whatever, throws him against the rope, hits the big boot, hits the leg drop. Now he turns into Hollywood Hogan, right? Starts wearing the black and white. There is no NWO. He's just Hollywood Hogan now. I don't know, man. Kind of almost seems like in a year, everybody would just kind of be like over it. But when he was the immortal Hulk Hogan, no, man, that sucker had legs. That sucker was going. That sucker kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So, you know, again, for those that are going to say that Hollywood Hogan, um, that career trumps all his other careers, I don't think so because reality, he had the NWO, man. When it's the and you can't name me any huge iconic matches outside of The Rock where it took place in the WWE. What matches? Yeah, maybe you liked his character when he's just, raising hell with all his homeboys and everything. But what iconic match? If we're talking about wrestling, what iconic matches does he have as Hollywood Hogan? Sting? I don't know. I'm not even sure that was that really of a deal. If you compare it to what he did as the immortal Hulk Hogan, it doesn't even come close. It's nowhere on that level. Goldberg, it doesn't come close. His feud with Roddy Piper as the immortal Hulk Hogan, come on, man. It doesn't come close. So I just want to go ahead and give my thoughts. Look, kudos to the Hulkster for reinventing himself. But I'm going to stand on that. I'm going to stand that as much as the NWO needed him for the NWO to be as popular as they were and had the longevity that they did, I think it's true on the flip side of the coin. I think Hollywood Hogan needed the NWO for it to work and for it to have the longevity that that did as well. Whether it was the immortal Hulk Hogan, he didn't need anybody. And all the iconic matches is when he's the immortal Hulk Hogan, outside of The Rock, if that's what you want to count. But anyway, I just thought I'd go ahead and share this because there's still people going back and forth talking about, hey man, which one was more iconic? Which run was and like I said, I get it. I get it. If you're born in the early 90s, you weren't there, you weren't able to, you didn't have a chance to witness what it was. The immortal Hulk Hogan. I get it. But hey, look, to each their own. That's my thoughts. What's your guys' thoughts? RIP to the biggest wrestling star there will ever be. We will never, ever, ever, ever. There will never be a bigger wrestling star than the immortal Hulk Hogan. May he rest in peace. Total Trucker Wrestling Rehab. Shouts to all the junkies. Catch you guys on next one.
And I